Welcome back. You're watching HFO TV.
Hi, it's Greg Frick again with HFO TV. We're here with Carmen Merlo, Director of the Bureau of Emergency Management. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Maybe you could give us a little background on what is the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management and what they do.
Sure. We're a coordination bureau. We're not a boots-on-the-ground bureau, and we help to coordinate any event in the city of Portland that requires the close coordination of two or more bureaus. Typical apartment fires, police activity, we don't usually get involved, but if there's something that requires just more coordination, whether it's for resource ordering or public information, that's when we get involved.
Got it. Do you just work just the city of Portland, or does Multnomah County, unincorporated Multnomah County get involved in that?
Just the city of Portland.
Just the city of Portland.
Yeah.
And it has to be two or more bureaus.
That's generally the threshold, yes.
Got it. Got it. And anything from emergencies to, I know you were saying, parades to...
That's right.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, we get involved not just for emergencies, but for very large planned events. It could be anything from the Rose Parade Festival, the MLS All-Star Game, the upcoming Indoor Track and Field Championships, a whole host of things.
Dignitaries coming to town, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. Well, I know in the news we've heard a lot about the potential seismic upgrades or things like that. In our world of multifamily, we've got a lot of unreinforced masonry buildings that are on the, on the streets. And so kind of wanted to get a take of kind of where that process has been. There's been a lot of different, I think there's a number of different committees involved. Maybe get your take on where we are with that and where do you think it's going to go?
Sure. Let me, if I could, back up and tell you why we're interested in this topic. Portland has a very high concentration of unreinforced masonry buildings. We believe there's about 1,800, and we're actually in the process now of updating that over 20-year-old database.
Now, is that higher percentage-wise than other cities on the West Coast? It is, okay.
And primarily because many other West Coast cities have already had their earthquakes and have already dealt with these vulnerable buildings. But in Portland, we have a very large concentration in Old Town, downtown, Chinatown, and they're also along major transportation routes. So in addition to the immediate life safety risks these buildings pose to building occupants and passersby, they also do damage to neighboring property, they generate a lot of debris and block transportation routes. And because many of these buildings have to be demolished anyway, they displace a lot of businesses and residents, and so they slow down the city's recovery. So much like other West Coast cities, LA and San Francisco in particular, we're looking at adopting a mandatory retrofit program for these unreinforced masonry buildings. And we're still kind of in the research phase right now. We convened a retrofit standards committee to take a look at what might retrofit standards look like. And not all buildings are the same. Some just need very minimal retrofits, and some really require more extensive retrofits. So that committee has already put out their draft recommendations.
Based on the building type and...
Exactly right. A building occupancy, use, whether it's an essential facility or not. So we completed that work. We've now convened a seismic support committee, and this committee is looking at what kinds of financial opportunities or incentives might be available to help these building owners retrofit their building. And we're just about to wrap up that meeting, or that committee, I should say, and then we'll be moving on to a policy committee. So this is going to be a committee of stakeholders, architects, structural engineers, and a lot of these building owners to provide the recommendations to City Council.
Okay. And in terms of the financial, is there any federal money for this? Is this all coming from local jurisdictions in terms of, I mean, sort of tax credits or the things like that?
Yeah, we're certainly looking at all possibilities, including federal grant opportunities, potentially even federal tax credits.
You are, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is, again, this is not just public, it's public and private buildings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, and what's the timing in terms of this next committee kind of comes to a recommendation, then you're going to go to the City Council and say, this is kind of what we think, and that's going to come up for debate again?
We have a work session scheduled with City Council on December 15th, 9:30. So that'll be our opportunity to update City Council about where the work of the committees are. And we're hoping to stand up the policy committee sometime at the first of the year, so beginning of January or mid-January of 2016. We're really hoping to have recommendations to Council by at the latest the summer of 2016. So in the next several months, 6 to 8 months, we're going to bring forth our recommendations to Council.
And when that happens on the, let's say it's June of 16, is there then a time once is it enacted at that point and we're looking, starting that day, or is it, we're rolling into 17, or is that kind of up for discussion?
I think the intent is to adopt it immediately and for it to take effect immediately.
Okay.
We're really, I think, being very not generous, but we're very empathetic to the fact that many of these building owners can't afford or will find it hard to retrofit these buildings. So we're allowing what we believe to be sufficient time to make these retrofits. So right now, the timeline is within 3 years, every building that we identified as unreinforced masonry is going to have to undergo a seismic evaluation of their building. And then, depending on whether the building's essential or not, the building owner will have between 10 years and 25 years to make those retrofits.
To implement the retrofits.
Exactly right.
Okay. And how does a building owner know if he's got a unreinforced building? Like you said, you're going to identify them, then they do the engineering study. On the identification, is that something the city's going out now, building by building and
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. We are updating a 20-year-old database. We've hired an engineer to do that. And we've already sent out surveys to the building owners for those properties that we already have on the list.
Got it.
That list certainly probably didn't include the universe of all unreinforced masonry buildings. So certainly we probably excluded some and over-included, yeah.
And so does it matter on the location of where the property is?
No.
I mean, if I'm on Hawthorne or Powell, it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah. So if you're within, and it's going to be just within the city limits.
That's right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And are we adopting something similar? If somebody wanted to look more closely related to San Francisco. I know Seattle's talked about it as well. LA has something. Is there one we're kind of modeling after, or trying to take the best of kind of all three?
I think we're looking most closely at Seattle because they're another city the size of Portland who really haven't had the earthquakes that California has. So we are modeling a lot of our programs based on the work done in Seattle.
And where are they in the process? Are they ahead of us in the terms of adopting this, or?
It's interesting. They were well ahead of us, but the program stalled recently. I think their council champion had moved on, and so there was no political will to move this forward. I think now, with all the attention seismic issues have gotten lately, they're now themselves kind of picking up and refreshing that program.
Okay. And then from our standpoint in Portland, who's kind of championing it from the city side? Is there?
My commissioner, Commissioner Steve Novick, I believe has been kind of front and center on this issue, but I believe that he does have the support of other council members.
So when it goes to council with the recommendation, it is up for vote, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Right. And then we can decide. And then what do we do on the terms of the public buildings? I mean, those are going to be, that's right. I mean, I know there's a lot of schools here that are older. And
that's right. The city owns some of these buildings.
Yes.
So we're very sympathetic to that. The city will not be excluded from this policy, so this policy will apply to public buildings as well.
So any building,
That's right.
Okay.
So we're going to put our money where our mouth is.
And then I had something that was brought up to me, an owner last week said, so if you do a 25-year window, and you say, I'm going to start my program at 25, within this 25 period, do we think these requirements are going to change as engineering gets more in depth, if we discover new?
No, in fact, we've taken that into account. So, for example, we know that there are buildings right now that have already been retrofitted.
Right.
They're going to be grandfathered in.
Okay.
And the same is going to be true for any new building codes that come online. We are not going to require them to kind of take into account any additional or new building codes that come into play after this passes.
Okay, so it's kind of a one-time, hey,
That's
at this point in time, this is what needs to get
right.
done, and then we can move forward.
Correct.
Got it. And what's kind of the feedback you're getting, or the Bureau's getting from the city or from the constituents in the city? Is it, I know I'm sure some are happy, some are not. Kind of what's your sense of where the...
I think certainly public sentiment is on our side. I think there's a general concern about these buildings because they are the most likely to collapse during seismic ground shaking. However, again, we do understand that building owners don't have the wherewithal, the means, the financial resources available to make these retrofits, even though they want to do the right thing.
Right.
So, so that's why we're, I think, going to great lengths to find some financing options for them, and we're not just adopting a mandatory retrofit policy, just kind of unilaterally. I think overall the sentiment's been very positive, but certainly we've heard some concerns from building owners.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And will the cost of the retrofit have any effect on? Do you look at a property and say it's only worth X and the cost is going to be here? Do we? I mean,
You know, again, it really depends on the level of retrofit, and you know, these can range anywhere from perhaps $25 a square foot to maybe $90 a square foot.
Right.
It's really divergent based on the unique characteristics of the building and the kind of soils it sits on and any other building irregularities.
and the 8-year built on, typically we're looking at 1930s and older. Are we?
I would right. I think the majority we're talking about are, you know, early 1900s, probably up until 1940s.
And then we okay. And does the
Yeah.
number of stories make a difference? Are we looking?
No.
No. So
Well, excuse me. It does in terms of occupancy.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy here the next the next few months. On this.
I think so.
Yes. Well, and if you wanted more information, we'll put a website up where you can get kind of information on when this, you know, the next meeting is. Thanks again for coming. That was great. Very
My pleasure.
informative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining us on HFO TV.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 503-241-5541 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information.